would like to start this video essay with an infamous story of Julius and Ethel Rosenbergs. A married couple was convicted of espionage. They were allegedly spying for the Soviet Union and providing the Soviets with top secret information. On June 19, 1953, over 70 years ago, both were executed. It happened during the peak of so-called McCarthyism, which was political repression and persecution of left-wing individuals in fear of communism during the 1950s. A lot of Americans back then did believe that the communists were influencing each and every part of American society and were trying to destroy the American way of living. Luckily, Rosenbergs were the only executed individuals during the Red Scare era. Fallout aesthetics are heavily inspired by 1950s America. In this world, the time as if stopped with the nuclear explosions, and America stopped in the 50s. This show somewhat romanticizes the 50s, using a lot of music from that era. But at the same time, Fallout also satirizes the 50s America, and especially the above-mentioned McCarthyism, or the Red Scare. Fallout is based on a series of video games by Bethesda. It's another great video game adaptation after Netflix's Castlevania and Arcane and HBO's The Last of Us, which I talked about a lot last year. Now, to be completely honest, whereas I'm a huge fan of The Last of Us duology, I never played a single Fallout game myself, so I can't judge the show only without comparing it to the games. I only vaguely knew what the games were about before watching the show. Fallout doesn't just satirize McCarthyism, but also criticizes modern American untamed capitalism. In this story, the war between China and the US happens. The US government practically outsources defense to a huge ultra-capitalist private corporation called Vault-Tec. Vault-Tec builds a system of underground vaults where rich people can hide in case of nuclear holocaust. The thing is, the corporation is not interested in peace whatsoever, because during peacetime, their products simply won't be relevant. So the corporation makes sure that the country gets stuck in an endless war cycle, when regular people get killed, while, simultaneously, the corporation is getting richer and richer with each passing day. Whoever opposes Vault-Tec and is against war in general gets labeled a communist. And just like in the real world, communism becomes a buzzword for any critique of the current system or politics. Lee Moldaver is the leader of the movement which opposes Vault-Tec and tries to stop Vault-Tec activity, while the majority of people are too deep into propaganda, so that they refuse to listen to anyone who dares to voice an opinion different from the societal consensus. Moldaver gets labeled a communist, even though she herself explicitly says that she is not a communist. Propaganda machine is very strong. Am I right, Tucker?
According to an account in the New York Times, Bob Iger met personally with China's propaganda minister in 2010. In other words, Disney promised to spread Chinese government propaganda, and that's what they did. Now put yourself in his position. You've watched for decades as the government of China has hurt your country, has hurt your fellow Americans. If you were a patriotic person, would you jump into business deals with the people who did that? Bob Iger did.
After realizing that the war isn't actually going nuclear, Vault-Tec decides to drop the bombs themselves, not just to earn money but also to bring full monopoly. The corporation is ready to wait for hundreds of years until radiation wears off and the surface is ready to be repopulated. Once it all happens, there will be no competition and Vault-Tec will be able to monopolize practically everything. Destruction and death of billions of people doesn't stop Vault-Tec from realizing their vicious plan. All of this we'll learn through flashbacks. Walton Goggins played two different characters in the show. Before the nuclear holocaust, he was Cooper Howard, a famous Hollywood actor known for his roles of cowboys in westerns. And after the catastrophe, he became the ghoul. Ghouls are humans mutated after being exposed to a lot of radiation. Special serum practically keeps ghouls conscious and prevents them from turning into literal mindless zombies. Walton Goggins' character is a link that connects two eras, the one before the nuclear catastrophe and the post-apocalyptic world in which most of the story takes place. The ghoul is a bounty hunter and the most intimidating gunslinger in post-apocalyptic California. Fallout was produced by Jonathan Nolan, who also directed the first 3 episodes. And this is why there is such a strong Western vibe, and if you felt like there are elements similar to Westworld, you were correct, since Westworld was also created by Jonathan Nolan. The opening scene is fantastic from the perspective of cinematography and storytelling. It's just the beginning and we don't know what exactly will happen. We see how the expression changes on the faces of Cooper and his daughter, while the nuclear cloud is slowly but steadily rising in a reflection of the glass window, while seemingly nobody else notices. Then we see a nuclear explosion happening in the background, while kids are smiling and having fun, and do not see what's going on behind them in the distance. The show mainly follows 3 protagonists. First is Lucy McQueen. She lives in Vault 33. Her vault is attacked by a group of raiders from the surface, led by Mo Daver, who somehow managed to survive over 2 centuries and didn't age without being hibernated. Raiders kidnap Lucy's father, Hank McQueen, and take him with them to the surface. Despite a lot of potential risk, Lucy decides to go after her father to the surface, where she, raised in sterile conditions, encounters the gruesome reality of the surface world, where danger awaits practically everywhere. And not just criminals with guns and scammers, but also giant mutated monsters. The second protagonist is a squire of the Brotherhood of Steel named Maximus. He is assigned to a knight named Titus. Knights wear special metallic suits that allow them to be the most intimidating force in all of Wasteland. However, Knight Titus gets killed by a radioactive bear. Maximus decides to take Titus' armor and complete his knight's mission. The thing is, being a squire means that you must protect your knight's life. And by failing to protect Titus, Maximus put himself in a dangerous situation of being executed by the Brotherhood for not doing his duty properly. Titus and Maximus were assigned to find a man named Dr. Wilczek. Maximus decides that if he finds and brings Wilczek to the Brotherhood, he will be pardoned and not killed. And the third protagonist is the ghoul, who also happens to be after Dr. Wilczek. Lucy needs to find Mo Daver, and Mo Daver, just like everyone else, needs Wilczek, so Lucy agrees to bring the doctor to Mo Daver. However, Dr. Wilczek dies after barely surviving Ghoul's assault. Lucy carries the doctor's head to Mo Daver. It is a pretty simple story. There are a lot of similarities between Lucy and Maximus. Both were raised believing that they have a special purpose in life. Lucy believes that one day vault dwellers will repopulate the earth and save America, as they themselves often say, while Maximus believes that his purpose is to become a good knight and a protector of the wasteland. However, once Lucy and Maximus get into a real mission, they realize that the world isn't really what they imagined and begin questioning everything that they knew. Maximus realizes that the Brotherhood doesn't really defend the wasteland, and a lot of people actually hate the knights. Lucy comes to realize that everything she grew up with was a pretty lie. She learns that Voltec dropped the nukes and caused the destruction of civilization. And after that, when surviving people attempted to build a new California Republic, Voltec destroyed that too, by nuking the city of Shady Sands. While Lucy is having her adventure on the surface, her brother is discovering a secret of Voltec in the Vault 33, uncovering the net of deceit and finding out the truth of the vaults. Both Lucy and Maximus are complex characters with a lot of internal struggle that they have to face. However, by far the most interesting character in the show is Walton Goggins the Ghoul. He retains his memory and remembers everything that happened before the nuclear explosion. He had a wife who worked for Voltec and a daughter. Even after 200 years, he is still looking for them, not knowing whether they're long dead or are hibernate somewhere and aren't dead yet. The ghoul keeps killing people for money because he needs serums to prolong his consciousness and memory and have a chance to find his family. In one of the episodes, Lucy asks Ghoul why he keeps living and what is the purpose of it, when his life is a constant endless struggle in a radioactive wasteland. Ghoul obviously doesn't tell Lucy the truth. The Fallout show perfectly combines comedic elements
I'm asking you for a step back and you're looking at me. You're looking at me like you don't know what the fuck to do. I got a 2-ton irradiated bear on my back and you're standing there. You stupid motherfucker, you know this is all your fault.
with suspense.
Now that right there is the closest thing we've had to an honest exchange so far.
While letting both elements shine through storytelling. Goggins' drill makes ghouls sound funny, but what he does is very gruesome at the same time. The bridge scene is one of my favorite moments of the whole season 1. It is very simple but very effective at the same time. Lucy and Maximus on one side of the bridge and a couple of strangers on the other side. Those strangers can be absolutely anyone. They can be just regular people minding their business, or they can turn out to be a couple of cutthroat criminals that will gladly slay anyone who they happen to encounter. Crossing the bridge is a simple task, but there are just so many risks that the scene turns into a mini thriller. Overall, Fallout is a really great show with an enthralling story and absolutely fantastic performance by Walton Goggins, accompanied by Ramin Djawadi's immaculate soundtrack. It's not just a good adaptation of a video game series, but obviously a very relevant story as well that talks about corporate greed, war, propaganda, and what depths people are ready to descend into for money and for power. And the story leaves a lot for continuation and more character development.